Hey, welcome back. So we have gone over how to use order of operations. If you don't know what I mean by order of operations, you should probably go back to video 2.1 where we talk about order of operations and the proper order in which we add, subtract, multiply, divide, do exponents, all that stuff. So again, if you're not sure what order of operations is, go back and rewatch video 2.1. because we're going to be using order of operations within substitution property. So what is the substitution property? Substitution property is when you replace a variable with a variable. Evidently, I didn't catch that. When you replace a variable with a value. So saying that x equals 10 and then replacing x with 10 and evaluating your expression. So we have different types of expressions. We have numeric expressions, which is what we are working with when we were first learning about order of operations, and we have algebraic expressions. And algebraic expressions include our variables. And so we have not just numbers and operations, but we include our variables within there. All right, so our first example, we're going to evaluate using the given values. So it tells us that r plus 1 plus p, and that we're going to use that p equals 4 and r equals 2. Now, always when I do substitution, I substitute into parentheses. The reason is if one of these were to be negative, I want to make sure I don't lose that sign. And so r is 2, so I'm going to do that this equals 2 plus 1 plus, and then p equals 4. 2 plus 1 plus 4. And now I'm going to use order of operations. That tells us we don't have, when I look at my parentheses, there's no operations happening within, so I can skip parentheses. I don't have any exponents. There is no multiplication or division, so that leaves me with adding and subtracting from left to right. So I'm going to do 2 plus 1, which is 3, plus 4, and 3 plus 4 equals 7. And that is our answer. So when it comes to steps, our first step is to substitute the values, and then step 2 is to evaluate. Helps if Mrs. Cartwright can spell. Evaluate using order of operations. Order of op. All right, so we're going to use those two steps again on this next one. All right, so m times the quantity n plus n minus the quantity m minus p, and it tells us that m equals 3, n equals 2, and p equals 2. So from here, I'm going to plug in. Now, because I plug in using parentheses where I have parentheses, I'm now going to make those brackets just so that I don't end up losing track of parentheses. So m is 3, and I'm going to put brackets in place of my parentheses there, because then I'm going to put parentheses around my 2. So 2 plus 2 for each of those n's, close my bracket, minus, open bracket, m is 3, minus p, which is 2, close bracket. All right, so from here, now I need to do my order of operations. I've got to do my grouping first, which is going to be my brackets. So I'm going to keep my 3 in the front. And so then 2 plus 2 is 4. And then 3 minus 2 is 1. So that's our grouping, or our parentheses. We don't have any exponents. We do have multiplication though. So we're going to do 3 times 4, which is 12. And then 12 minus 1 equals 11. And so that is our final answer. So again, our steps are substitute values in. I highly suggest putting our values within parentheses so we don't lose any negatives if those exist, and then evaluate to find our answer. All right, last example for today. We have b times a minus a divided by 4 times a plus b. And we're going to use that a equals 5 and b equals 5. And sometimes that happens, that they equal the same thing. Again, I'm going to use brackets where they already had parentheses and then parentheses for my numbers. So b is 5, a is 5, minus a, close the bracket, divide by 4 times the bracket, a, which is 5, plus b, which is 5, close bracket. All right, so done the first step. I've substituted my values in. Happens to be that they're all 5. From here, I've got to use order of operations. Order of operations tells me I've got to do whatever's in my grouping first. So when I look at my grouping, in these brackets, I need to do multiplication before I can do subtraction. So 5 times 5 is 25. So we have 25 minus 5 in this bracket, divided by 4, and then in my brackets, so I'm going to do 5 plus 5, which is 10. So 4 times 10. Now, you have to be careful here because I know we're really, I've got to finish what's going on in this bracket before I can move on to my next overall step. And I know it's tempting that when I do 25 minus 5 and get 20 for what's inside my bracket, that it's tempting to say, okay, and now I can come over here and do 4 times 10. But don't. This is where everyone messes up on social media. Order of operations says that we multiply and divide from left to right, which means we actually need to do the division before we do the multiplying. So I need to do 20 divided by 4 next, which is 5. And then do 5 times 10, which is 50. Now, that is a big difference because if I would have divided first, I would have ended up with, or multiplied first, I would have ended up with 20 divided by 40, and then I would have ended up with an answer of 1/2 or 0.5, which is different, very different from the correct answer. So do be careful of steps like that, making sure that you follow that order of operations. Multiplication and division, doesn't matter which one comes first, it has to happen from left to right. All right, that is all that we are doing today, and